morning, welcome, Flower Painting Workshop, day one. Morning, welcome. We're starting now, we've been faffing around for 20 minutes. And we're
Just
on to, we'll say 20 minutes.
20
perfect.
minutes.
Okay. So, so what I've been doing is kind of gathering the stuff around me. I'm going to put all of this back over on that table there once I'm done, and you're welcome to take whatever it is that you want to use from my paints and all that kind of stuff. But I thought the very first thing I would recommend that you do is to kind of get yourself set up. You want to kind of feel like, I think sometimes it's really helpful to be moving around as you're getting organised, because it helps to physically just dissipate the tension that you might feel before you start. And that's why I find that, it's not only just kind of faffing around, it's also, just moving, physically moving is helpful. Anna's face. You look like you're in an agony watching. Okay, but so once you've done that, then you'll kind of be looking at the flowers and looking at your board. As you're getting yourself set up, you might be already visualizing the space that the flowers will occupy on your piece of paper. And I'm kind of seeing a bit of a diagonal run through here, and then the anchor of the jug. And I think actually I might go slightly to the left. I'm trying to consider where I'll place things. But if there's a general run of flowers this way, that's the thing that most excites me. And then this lily coming up here, and the pull down of the jug, which might be explained with even a little bit of collage or something. So what I was saying is, as you're moving about, you might end up starting to visualize the space it's going to occupy, and also looking at the colours that you're considering using. I would say it's a good idea to begin with, whenever I say things like this, then I don't begin with the thing I say that I'm going to begin with. So I'm really going to think, are we going to do that?
She never practices what she preaches.
No, there's no kind of rhythm.
Well, you do actually.
Yeah, you find your own way, like.
Yeah.
But every time, I think it's quite good for every time for it to feel different. Like that you have no kind of particular way in each time, because each painting is new, and each painting is going to have its own pathway, and each person will have their own pathway through their painting. But there are a few pointers that I think are helpful. And one of the things is I'm going to start, I feel like I want to start with, just get the paper towels there, because I want to use the rags. I'll just get a paper towel tray.
When I first got to Edinburgh, I was standing at the phone box waiting, and he came to me and said, "In a minute,
I was going to say, one of the good places to start, see any little gap at all in your offer. I'm only messing.
Sorry?
I really am only messing. It's lovely. It's lovely. It's great because, like, God, I was 20 minutes getting ready there. Okay. The first thing I think is the green hangs it all together. I feel like the dark green is one of the consistent colours, because really when you're presented with all those flowers, there's a lot going on, and it's helpful to find something that's consistent. Where did I put my glass of water? This is something that always does come up actually as I start to get going. I remember to look after myself. I remember, I feel thirsty, or I'm not breathing into my belly. So all of that is, I feel like that has to be mentioned too. I feel it's very important, that side of that. Because after all, we're kind of wanting to bring our presence here, to really fully feel that you're bringing your attention, to be attentive. We need to be settled in ourselves a bit. Now, so what I'm doing is mixing. I've got Hooker's green there, or Viridian green, it'd be kind of similar. Hooker's green mixed with the ultramarine blue. That's the ultramarine blue there. and that's the hooker's green, and the two of them together I think give me a colour that's a bit more, it's actually quite good for the colour of the tabletop, isn't it that? Maybe I'll start with that actually. Right. I better start with something anyway, for God's sake. Make some move. And then this is sap green as well, which is I think a bit closer to the tabletop colour. See what I mean? I said I'd start with the leaves and now I'm starting with that. Okay. I'm going to put down some masking tape first. So I think you want to, let's see. I'm going to pretend there that I'm seeing the tabletop as a horizontal, just because I want to. So you know, you might go with the two angles, but for this, for the purposes of the demonstration anyway, I'm just going to work with it as though it's a horizontal. And you want to start like there's a lovely quote, I don't know who said it. You can make a wild goose tame, but you can't make a tame goose wild. And just to start with a bit of energy, if you can. And it doesn't have to be that you're dancing around the easel or anything like that. Just, you know, rather than begin like this, see if you can start with a bit of gusto. And just physically moving, as I said, is a good thing anyway. I'm going to put some ones on there and things. I've got some on the blind. Okay. Take that off. And now I think I'll put some brown into that green. There it is. To stop it being so colourful and to give it a slightly different quality of, to give it a slightly different shade of green to the tabletop there. And I think it helps for the green that's in the foliage to be a little bit more muted at the beginning. You can pull out the lights later on, but for it to have, like putting the brown into that green makes it less colourful. You know. Okay. Alright, so what will I do next now? I think, yes, I'm going to put in the green where it meets the jug, foliage where the jug meets the, you know, that kind of green patch there is where I'm kind of starting with. Yeah. And I feel like it's quite good to cross hatch. I'm just noticing the general. My words seem to be fairly stunted this morning. I'm kind of not finding the same. Maybe it's a different side of the brain or something. But the general area where the green is, do you know? So let's just find a
spitting image.
You know, the green leaves that are sticking out this side. And then what you could do is you could get your paper towel. It's quite nice with this paper. You can use the paper towel to lift off. If you dampen the paper towel, you can create the shape of the lily leaves maybe a little bit more freely. No, you'd be a little bit further away from the flowers than I am, and it's no harm. You know, otherwise we do this. So, okay, and then there's the flowers over here. And if you don't catch it before it's dried, you can always come back in with something like, you know, you could use white paint to work over it if you want to find the edge again. So it's not just lifting off the paint. It's quite nice to lift it off too. See when you do a splash, it's not exciting with the quality. But you don't, if you lift it off straight away, that won't happen. You kind of need to let it alone for a little while to kind of eat into the paint. And I think it's a good thing at the beginning to get yourself excited about the surface you're working on. Part of your job is to create a surface that you're inspired to work over. Okay. I'm going to lift off where I see the white daisy there as well now, 'cause yeah, but I could keep going with the green for another while. I think it's quite good not to get, you know how we can have a tendency, I think, us human beings, to get stuck chasing something. Like when you find a thing that feels good, you end up, oh, I can make that really nice, that leaf, you know. And then you stand back and it's, I think it's good to kind of draw back and do general things, and then, you know, that whole kind of spiraling in and spiraling out, carry on. Right. Yeah. Okay, so with my eyes, I'm half closing my eyes in order to see the areas where the green is running through the whole thing. And so that I'm not thinking of them as individual leaves or anything, but I'm just considering the spaces where, I see greenery. And remembering that what I appreciated about it was the diagonal kind of flow through the picture as well. It's all happening out there today, isn't it? I suppose then I could, I'd probably lift off a little bit more as well of the flowers. Just, I think you want to kind of do whatever it is that'll most swiftly and economically explain what it is that you're seeing. So to get the flurry of white flowers there, the simplest way at the moment for me to do that is just to lift off the ones that are shooting up that way. And even if you totally, like, I'm not positive of the position of things there, but even if you totally relocate something later on, it's good enough for now to have the momentum and the movement and the energies, you know, and the evidence of the painting in the end is lovely too, to feel that the evidence of the painting taking shape is actually there in your final picture too, a little bit. Okay. Okay, yeah. All right. So what would be the next thing? So I think the next biggest thing now might be to position the vase, the jug. It's a jug, for fuck's sake.
Got in quick there,
You
didn't
just
you?
said jug. No vase or vase business. Okay. Yeah. I think that's kind of nice for the vase, isn't it?
Oh,
fucking jug.
she
Sorry.
said fast there.
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not even
Converting.
That's terrible. It's got a handle. Gosh, that's really strange. Isn't it amazing how quickly we comply kind of thing, you know?
When somebody's
Most
bossy.
people are gonna, I don't know, just that influential wisdom that Veronica. So I'm putting some of the PVA glue, there's loads of that, and you can put it onto the cover of the plastic things there if you want to have something to hold your glue. Okay. I just thought that looked kind of nice. Okay. Maybe turning it that way would be more sensible. Okay. All right. And you know, sometimes leaving a thing unfinished and kind of just the shape of it being fairly raw is kind of, it's good, I think, to do that, to not have it so finely finished, the first move that you make, that you're that there's nothing to respond to. Like, I want to feel like I want to feel like I need to explain, I have something more to do to explain that, I suppose. I mean, I might tear off a bit there and use that for the bit of the handle, actually.
I'm just looking to see. Ah, there's the jug.
I'm keeping that, right? Okay. All right. And do you know, feel free to ask anything or to make
Just
any
enjoying
observations.
watching.
hit you with things. Okay, so for goodness sake, that's that. Right. Now, there's some paper that I painted last night. I might end up using a bit of that maybe for, bless you, for the lily.
4 minutes left.
Okay, my goodness. But I think I won't. I think I'll just maybe use paint there. So to get the 2 lilies down might be the next thing. And if I were you now, I'd have 2 tubs of water so that you've got one for the greens. You know, keep your water clean when you're working on the flowers. To be the thing. I always have this feeling at the beginning that there's so much that I'd like to be able to see and do and.
It's a great colour.
Mm-hmm.
I like that colour.
It's a good colour, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, and you could also use the tops of the thing. Look, there's some nice job of that stuff there as well. The thing is, I think it's probably a good idea to start the flowers by using paint, and then that you can, and then you could maybe bring in some collage later on, like. Just start off that there. Bit of pink on the ceiling now as well. Hopefully it'll wash off. Mary, my friend, you know Mary used to help, and she's, my God, she did such an amazing job cleaning up.
Is she not coming today?
No, I haven't. Mary's not really been with me for a while now. But the cleaner here does it as well, you know. Yeah, Mary was brilliant. Okay, so I put in a little bit of ultramarine blue into the pinky colour that I used in the lilies there, in order to give the colour of those that little flurry of flowers a slightly different colour. I mean, it's not actually the colour that they are, is it? I'll get a little bit more of that on again. And they're there as well. And that's not good, giving great coverage there, but it's alright. Okay. The thing is, there's other things that you can use for the coverage as well, you know. Some paint will work better to cover over the green than others. And when it doesn't, there's a few things you can do. You could of course use some collage. I might end up using a little bit of collage there to describe that. It's quite a nice paper actually. Or the other thing you could do is you could put that collage on there just to kind of show you what I mean. And the other thing you could do is you could paint white paint on the surface that you want to put the colour on, let it dry, and then when you come back it's as though you're starting freshly again. So we've got a few other
They're
things.
good. They're expensive ones.
My friend sent them to me, and she said she just couldn't get it. Yeah, so I'd say they are. I don't know how much they are. And remember I was saying earlier about how you can create the shape of the leaves with the lifting off. There's also the possibility of creating the shape of the leaves by drawing with the oil pastel over the edge again. It's quite a nice thing to lift off an edge and to apply an edge. Do you get me? So that there's a kind of thickness. And you can do that, with, of course, with any colours. Yeah, and I just stick down. It's amazing, you know, that there's so many different shades of yellow. I just painted those last night, thinking that it would be quite good to have a few options for the yellows, because that's maybe closer to that yellow than the sunflower yellow over there. Into those colours. So you're free to use those, and if you want to paint some more, there's some white paper that you can paint your own as well. Okay, I would stick on a couple. I'd say my time is almost up, Veronica, is it?
I've got some good children catalogues with me.
Oh, have you? The
Some-
matte surface.
Some of them are nice colours in
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
Nice colours, and colours and patterns in there. And it's good, the Gudrun Shodrun catalogue. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
It doesn't, it's not like
It's Swedish clothes.
Oh, okay. That's my time.
How much longer do you want? I'll just let you go.
Maybe 5 minutes, or 4 minutes even, I don't know. I hope this is, you see, I feel sometimes like I just want to pass on the fact that just starting and moving in the way that you feel you want to move is helpful at the beginning. And then as you move on, we can talk about ways of sculpting stuff a bit more fully. But I think the main thing is really to create a surface that you feel inspired to work over, as I say. And maybe not so much collage early on. Like, I'm just going to do, what would be, it might be no harm to do, say if I was to just focus on that flower alone, just for the purposes of the demonstration, you know that I would recommend that you work everywhere and keep the energy of the whole thing moving up together. Like Suzanne says, my painting holds hands and comes up together. Apparently Suzanne said that. The idea of keeping the energy alive everywhere. But for the demonstration, I might just do one single flower here just to show you how I might tackle going forward, rather than everything being kind of all alive.
I like it like that already.
Do you?
Hopefully,
Yeah, my friend. I put a bit of lemon yellow on, I think. Do you see what I did with did you bring tear off palettes?
Mm-hmm.
Did you manage to get one? Because you can use some of mine there. I can give you each a sheet, but I just stuck a page onto the table. And we have the plastic covers as well that you can just put paint on, you know, so it's not a big deal. Or even we could just use paper. But if you do have a tear off palette, you could put one sheet on there, and then you could hold that for you to mix your colours. So what I thought as a beginning for that flower, I just put on a layer of lemon yellow, which feels quite true to that colour actually. And then I think I would use my fingers to bring in a few of the spaces between the flowers there. Can you see all right, Chris, when in front of you? You could bring in where the edge of the flower meets the space around it. And as I look at it, like there's different colours meeting it. There's pink, the pink flower meeting it here. And the other areas, it's just dark, really. I will say 5 minutes, Veronica, you know. Did I just say that? So the areas where it's quite dark, I've mixed up a blue and brown mix that looks like that. It's quite dark. When you mix ultramarine blue and a dark brown together, you know, Van Dyke brown or burnt umber, you get a good dark colour. And that will help you to emphasise. Actually, do you know, while that's still wet, wouldn't it be a good idea now to take off the centre? Just to lift off something, to start making it read as that flower. Nice there. It's alright. I'm going to put on more yellow because I've got a bit of a mess there, lifting it off. So I'm putting on some more yellow to get that difference again between the centre and the surrounding petals. And then I'm going to use the dark to create a little bit more of the triangular shapes of the spaces between the petals. Move the yellow up a little bit higher. And like when you're doing this now, you might also have the other petal, the other yellows on the go over there, so that it's not just the one that you're focusing on. And I'm going to use a different brush to paint in the centre. That's a kind of a sap green centre, I would say. And when it's mixed with the yellow, and when it's maybe softened by my thumb, hopefully it'll bring in to read a bit more the colour that I'm seeing there. Yeah, and then I'll go back to the brush that has the dark on it again in order to get the really dark bit coming down Helen, who was on our course as well, the online course. And that was the first, I think that was the first flower painting course that I ever did, was the one that you were on online. And Helen, I met at a workshop later on in Cambridge. She came along to in person as well. And it's funny because we interact so much online, I feel like I really know you, and then I can't believe I'd never met you before. It's funny. Okay, so filling in the darks back there as well. Okay. And then there's the, and then there's the chance to maybe stick on a couple of some of the collage yellows might be quite a nice way to describe the light on the petals. And then there's something about collage that seems to work for explaining petals. Maybe because they're in relief, but you know, they themselves are in relief on the page. Okay, so it's kind of something to try maybe. And what else now could you try, just to say all the different things that you could use? We've got oil pastels and chalk pastels. Oil pastels are kind of buttery, they look like that, like, and the chalk pastels, they have a brightness about them, and they sit quite nicely on the top of everything else. Sometimes to just give that extra bit of brightness to your flowers. Yeah. Anyway, they're all the different things. It's a bit of a mess, that flower. But you know, they're all the things that you could use to explain your flowers. I think that's all I'm going to say, for God's sake. Maybe you could just start. What do you think? Do you feel like you could just make a start? And then I'll go around and see you individually, and we can make some more suggestions as to how you could go forward. Does anyone have any questions?
Whenever I've painted on and I put on the green and then I maybe want to do yellow or pink flowers on top, it's muddy. I haven't mastered getting that clarity of the yellow over the, maybe the quality of paint too, of course.
That might be it, but it's also, I think, the thickness. Like if I was to put on that paint now, like with a brush or something,
yeah, that's what I
know, it might go like that. Whereas, and you could put it on with your brush quickly, so you could scoop up enough of it, and then holding the brush parallel to the page, just place on your paint.
Place it on.
Yeah, and then you can adjust it with your fingers, or you can adjust it, you know, with the brush to get the shape of the spaces between. You could just lift off. But I think it's certainly, that's really good that you mentioned that, because I forget to say about the consistency of paint, and the thickness of the paint really can offer a much more substantial colour, and especially when it's yellow, because when you spread yellow out, it's, as Damien says, it's easily adulterated yellow. So you know, it needs to have it can be influenced by the colour underneath it, unless it's put on quite thickly. Or like I was saying with the, remember I was trying to put on the lily there, and it didn't really work for me with that paint. It's a slightly, I think you're right, that paint is probably not as it's not as expensive as that one. So in that case, you might need to put your white paint on first,
or a bit of white paper.
Yes,
Oh,
right,
bit of white
sometimes
paper.
you've done that, haven't
Yeah,
you?
I forgot about that. Yeah, so you could
Covered
just
up.
stick on.
Sticks with the white.
Yes, good.
Yeah. And like you could stick on a piece that is actually the shape of the lily. Yeah, it's a good idea to do that. And then you're not having to go back and wait for it to dry and everything. So you could put your pink over that. And the fact that it's torn maybe makes it read more as the organic shape of the leaf or the flower. You know. So I would recommend you tear rather than cut the paper when you're using collage. Okay, thanks very much for your attention there now. And I'd say hold your applause now until something significant happens. But you know, it's just really a way in. And shake it off regularly. Give yourself a chance to breathe and, you know, fully occupy the space that you're in, and then do your best. All right.
Thank you.